Welcome back to the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Really appreciate you guys joining us for a late night edition of Major League Baseball's update from the winter meetings. Anyway, a lot of news happened today. We had the Verlander signing, the Trey Turner signing, and then just before we came on the air with you guys, we get a little bit of news that there's some growing sense around the San Francisco Giants front office that they believe they have the best offer on the table for Aaron Judge right now, and they're getting very confident about their ability to bring him in. That coming from Bob Nightingale literally just minutes before we come on the air. So we'll see how things go. Yes, thank you, Bush Girl. Appreciate you for joining us. Welcome back, Mark and Blake. Thank you guys for joining us. But let's start with that story right there. Aaron Judge is strictly between, it sounds like it's a two-horse race at this point right now, between the Yankees and the Giants. There's also rumors out there that Aaron Judge, who's actually at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game tonight against the Saints on Monday Night Football, that he will be on a flight going to San Diego tomorrow. If he does indeed do that, he'll probably arrive there sometime in the afternoon. So we could have a news conference as early as tomorrow if a deal comes together. Now, those reports are not confirmed, so take them with a grain of salt. But if you're reading through the tea leaves, you can start to see a path for why the San Francisco Giants believe they're the front runners now for Aaron Judge. Now, Brian Cashman got the big extension from the New York Yankees today through the 2026 season at his news conference, basically saying, hey, I got an extension, etc. He was profuse in saying that Hal Steinbrenner is all in on trying to keep Aaron Judge as a member of the New York Yankees. Sounds like the Yankees are at least leaving no stone unturned when they try to retain Aaron Judge. It sounds like they've made multiple offers to Aaron Judge. Now that it's gone this late into free agency, most of the time when you see players go this far into free agency, not saying it's 100% of the time, not even saying it's 75% of the time, but the majority of the time, more than 50%, you see players leave for another destination. So Yankees fans, brace yourselves. You could be in for a very rough winter if Aaron Judge indeed decides to leave for the San Francisco Giants. I was of the belief that the Yankees weren't necessarily the favorite to sign him as far as the greatest percentage. I thought there was a greater percentage he would leave. However, I thought the most likely team for him was still the Yankees at around 40% for me. Then I had the Giants right behind them at about 38% with the Dodgers after that. But right now, with the reports we're hearing, it sounds like it's strictly a two-team race between the Giants and Yankees. And now I have to officially change my prediction. I'm predicting Aaron Judge will likely leave the New York Yankees at this point. Just an absolute stunner for the New York Yankees fans. I'm sorry for those of you watching. It's not looking promising for you. Sure, all of these are unconfirmed reports, and some of these are opinion pieces, etc. But just seeing how the market is portraying itself right now, player after player right now is opting not to go back with their original team and looking for their next great opportunity. And the Yankees, without Aaron Judge, I mean, we're talking about a team in the cellar of the AL East. There's 3 other teams guaranteed to finish ahead of them next year without Aaron Judge. The Yankees still have more work to do, even if they brought back Aaron Judge. I wonder if he sees that and says, hey, if the Giants give me, say, $45 million over a span of 10 years, that's a $450 million contract, by the way, which they could easily afford. they could still add another $40 million in payroll and build a team around Aaron Judge, Brandon Crawford, whoever they add at shortstop, around that young starting pitching core that they have. Doval at the back end of the rotation, or back end of the bullpen, is a great option back there as well. They got Jock Peterson on a qualifying offer. That team would be right up there as far as one of the wild card teams, possibly even competing for the Dodgers now that they've taken a couple of steps back over the last couple of years. They take the loss of Trey Turner. Maybe he says, hey, the Dodgers aren't necessarily the powerhouse they've been in the past. This is a real opportunity for me to go to a new destination and write my ticket for the Hall of Fame right now. Of course, the Yankees are a great team, have always been a great team in Major League Baseball, but things are starting to look a little bloated as far as their contracts. I mean, they have the big contracts anyway for Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Hicks. Those are things Aaron Judge has to weigh whenever he's considering, should I stay with the New York Yankees, who have more work to do to get back to where we were last year, let alone to get ahead of the Houston Astros and other teams that are on the rise out in the American League. But on the National League side, the NL East is very competitive with the Phillies, Mets, and Braves. The NL West is also very competitive with the Padres and Dodgers, but maybe he sees an opportunity for growth out of that Giants team on top of what he would bring to the team. I imagine he sees what the Yankees have right now with bloated payrolls, and he's going to have to wait another year for them to cut the contract of Donaldson, a poor trade choice that they made last year, and go after a type like Devers maybe. I don't know if Aaron Judge wants to wait. But again, San Francisco is his home, grew up in that area. His favorite team as a child was the San Francisco Giants. A lot of ties in that area. And I'll repeat this story one more time for you, those of you who are just joining us for the first time. Remember back in the winter meetings of 1993, I believe the year was, the Yankees and Giants were competing for a guy named Barry Bonds. You may have heard of him. At that winter meetings anyway, it was believed those two teams were most in desperate need of Barry Bonds. And the one time that I can remember the Yankees have been outbid for a player of that caliber was Barry Bonds. And Barry went out to the West Coast, had a fantastic finish to his career, whether or not with the steroid era or whatever you want to believe about it. But that's the one of the few times you can actually point to and say, hey, the Yankees actually lost a free agent in the prime of the Yankees, or in the era of George Steinbrenner at that time. Now we have Hal Steinbrenner, still a very good executive, but not nearly what George was, honestly, and from an outsider looking in. But we're starting to see some movement that could lead towards a signing of Aaron Judge going to the San Francisco Giants. Let us know in the comments section what you think of the possibility of that happening. Thank you, Bush Girl, for joining us. Really appreciate all the support we've gained over the past few days anyway. If you're new here to the Upside, we cover the MLB, NBA, NFL, and the NHL. And if you're watching the Monday Night Football game, Tom Brady once again leads 2 touchdown drives in the final 4 minutes of the game to take the lead. 3 seconds left on the clock right now. That is where Aaron Judge is. I'm sure, is going to talk to he's wearing the Mike Evans jersey at the game, and I'm sure he'll have a conversation with Tom Brady. They spoke before the game in the tunnel. I'm sure Tom Brady was like, hey, I heard you got all this going on, blah, blah, blah. Maybe Aaron Judge is wanting to bet on the air of Tom Brady. Maybe that's something he wants to consider. Hey, you were an all-time great in Boston with the New England Patriots. What was it like to make the decision to go to Tampa Bay? Why did you make your decision? What can I learn from you as far as what formulated your decision? Maybe that's why he's there. Maybe he's just there to enjoy the game. Who knows? But in either event, it sounds like he could be at their winter meetings tomorrow afternoon. We will be live for you guys if that indeed does happen, because pandemonium is sure to break out if he walks into that hotel at the winter meetings in San Diego. But there's a lot of headlines to get to today. Remember, we already have some signings today. Those are just rumors right off the top. But some of the signings we've already had right as soon as the winter meetings opened up for business this morning, about 8 a.m., right around 10 a.m. on the West Coast anyway, we got the news Justin Verlander was going to sign with the New York Mets, 2 years, $86.66 million. Great contract for Verlander. Gets a 2-year guarantee with an option that could very well vest as well. But great contract for the Mets. They needed to find a Jacob deGrom replacement. They were able to do so. Then about 2 hours later, we got the Trey Turner news. Signed an 11-year deal, $300 million, full no-trade clause to go to the Philadelphia Phillies. I told you guys there was a lot of smoke around the Trey Turner camp trying to say, hey, there's other teams interested in bringing me in, the San Diego Padres, etc. There's also a lot of smoke coming out of the Phillies camp saying, hey, we have all these other options at shortstop we could talk to. I told you guys to ignore that, and honestly, if you were paying attention to that smoke and believing that Trey Turner was headed out to the West Coast when we knew basically from the trade deadline that there was not a chance he was going to stay on the West Coast, I'm telling you right now, you should have listened to us. Trey Turner signs that 11-year deal. The reason why it's 11 years, it sounds like, is because they wanted to lower that average annual value. Remember back to the last time we had a true winter meetings in 2019, they did something very similar with Bryce Harper's contract, making it a 13-year commitment. So congratulations, Trey Turner. Great contract for you. Lower as far as the average annual value. That might affect the shortstop market as far as for Dansby Swanson, Xander Bogaerts, or Carlos Correa. If Aaron Judge leaves from the Yankees to go to the Giants, maybe that'll bolster the market of a guy like Carlos Correa, adding another team into the mix for him. And the Yankees are going to have to do something to pivot from a loss of Aaron Judge. Maybe Correa could be the guy they go to. But again, losing Aaron Judge in that market, there's not really any clear path to replace him. So I don't know what they're going to do, but it's sounding like Aaron Judge could be heading towards the San Francisco Giants. I know we just gained quite a few new viewers just in the last few seconds, so I'll just kind of repeat everything once more. For those of you just joining us, it's sounding more and more and more like Aaron Judge could be on his way to the San Francisco Giants. The Giants front office themselves are starting to have a lot of quiet confidence, if you will, as far as their ability to bring in Aaron Judge. With him going to San Diego, likely tomorrow anyway, there's not confirmed reports of it, but they're starting to get some media reports, some rumblings that Aaron Judge could be heading to the winter meetings tomorrow. We could have a press conference as soon as tomorrow evening to announce the Aaron Judge signing wherever he ends up. And in a winter where we've seen a lot of top end players change teams, maybe this will just be yet another one to change teams. Welcome back, Anthony. Welcome back, Bryce. We're doing fantastic. Any news on Dansby Swanson? Well, the latest news has him going to the Chicago Cubs, but they had a lot of meetings today with shortstops on the market. Xander Bogaerts they've met with within the last 24 hours. Carlos Correa they actually met in person with at the hotel, and we'll see how things go. But there's a lot of rumblings going on right now. I'm expecting a very active winter meetings tomorrow. We could see some trade possibilities finally come about as well. A lot of the market today was centered around the signings of Verlander and Turner. As we get into the late night hours, that's why I started this one around 10 o'clock Central Time anyway, I believe we'll start to get some more rumors and maybe even a signing or a trade here in the next couple of hours. So we'll see how things go. I feel like tomorrow will be the most active day. What do you think? I just feel it. Probably tomorrow and Wednesday will be the most active days as far as free agency goes. Trades will probably be most active tomorrow and Wednesday as well. What do you think the Tigers could get for Baez? Literally nothing. I don't think the Tigers are going to be able to trade that contract right now to any team. And the Tigers are just going to have to sit there and hope he can get back to where he was a couple of years ago with the Cubs. Sorry, Rob. I know if you're a Tigers fan, it's just you're in a tough spot right now. Worst thing you can be is, a team stuck in the middle, not good enough to make the postseason, not good enough to get a top, 5 pick. But the Tigers are going to be in that spot at least for another year or two, unless they get something out of Javi Baez. But hopefully that answers your question. But I know a lot of you guys are just joining us for the first time. Make sure you say hello in the chat and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you guys are new here, we cover the MLB, NBA, NFL, and the NHL. Tom Brady just orchestrated a fantastic comeback at home against the New Orleans Saints. They were down 16-3 with less than 4 minutes left on the clock. He orchestrated 2 touchdown drives in the final couple minutes of that game to take the lead with 3 seconds left. Do you still think that Rodon will end up with the Rangers? I think the market for Rodon is very interesting for him. Both of the New York teams are heavily interested in Carlos Rodon at the moment, along with the Rangers. I'm told the Twins are also active in those negotiations as well. The Giants have been active in there as well. But if I'm the Rangers, I try to double up on starting pitching, just like they did as far as shortstops last year. They like to get 2 of everything. Remember in the draft a couple of years ago when they got Jack Leiter, their second choice in that draft would have been Kumar Rocker. The following year, they have the chance to get Kumar Rocker. They get Kumar Rocker. And then finally get the top overall pitching prospect in the draft in the 4th round. Then in free agency last year, they make the addition of Marcus Semien and then doubled down on it with Corey Seager. At the time, everybody was like, all right, this is a great shortstop to get Marcus Semien. No, they had envisioned him as their second baseman. They get the top overall shortstop on the market last year in Corey Seager. But overall, everything is starting to percolate right now at the winter meetings. Do you think Tyone will go to the Mets? No, I do not think that will happen right now. It sounds like the negotiations for Tyone and the Mets. I actually have a video coming out about that tomorrow. That the Mets were very interested in bringing him in before the winter meetings. I wonder if they circle back to him as the winter meetings kind of wind down Wednesday, Thursday, etc. But it seems like he might get a bigger offer from another team. I'm expecting the Orioles to make a competitive offer there. They did already bring in Kyle Gibson. That news was announced today, 1 year, $10 million, but he's not exactly the number 2 or 3 type starter in that rotation. But he's a good veteran piece to help shepherd a young team, and they're going to have to add some more pieces to that rotation. Pablo Lopez updates, none yet, still pretty much the same that we've had for the past few days. I think we're waiting, the entire market right now is, I think, waiting for Aaron Judge to possibly sign. And then, of course, starting pitching. Once Carlos Rodon goes off of the market, he's the last top-end ace on the market, unless you count Kodai Senga. I'm going to set him aside because he hasn't pitched in the majors yet. But once we get the signing of Carlos Rodon, you're going to see things break out as far as trades for starting pitchers. A lot more conversations like that are going to take place once Rodon does sign. Padres offered more than the Phillies for Turner. I'm sure there were a lot of teams that offered more than the Phillies for Turner. I was expecting an average annual value around $33 million per year for Turner, and he ended up signing for less than $30 million per year. Because he wanted to go back to the East Coast. His destination was always going to be up in the Northeast. He wanted to play for a team that had spring training down in Florida. That was Philadelphia to a T. Gives them exactly what they need. I'm getting tired of my Marlins promising multiple off seasons that they're going to trade Pablo Lopez and nothing happens. I'm going to start losing faith in the front office if they don't do anything. The Marlins are always going to do what Marlins front offices have always done. They're going to tinker around the edges. They're never going to be in it for top-end free agents. Just look at last year. Nick Castellanos pretty much was signed, sealed, and delivered because Derek Jeter had basically got it and all wrapped up. And he's a Miami boy, so he would have been very happy going to the Miami Marlins. And ultimately, that negotiation is what caused Derek Jeter to realize this front office was never going to get anything done. Ownership was never going to make a big investment like that in a free agent. And so, sorry, Marlins fans, it's just going to be more of the same for you. Welcome back, Ramon. Appreciate you joining us. If the Padres offered more than $300 million for Turner, they can get Judge. Not a chance. Sorry, Cobra. Welcome back. Welcome in, Mateo. Appreciate you guys joining us. What the Blue Jays looking at right now, they're looking at trading Danny Jansen. They're looking at left field, possibly Bellinger, Nimmo, Reynolds. They're looking at some starting pitchers. Andrew Heaney, they put out a contract offer to today. They're also looking at Rodon as well. There's a couple other rumors as well to kind of check up on. We'll do some of those videos for you guys tomorrow. Where will Trevor go? I think the Orioles would be an interesting fit. I'm blanking on who you're referring to as Trevor. I don't know why I'm blanking, but Trevor, I don't know. What is the Giants' backup plan? Well, obviously, I think if they lose Aaron Judge, I think they immediately pivot to Carlos Correa or Xander Bogaerts to shore up that middle infield. Then I think they try to bring back Carlos Rodon. Can you explain to me why you don't see a lot of teenagers coming out of Asia during the international free agency like you see from the Caribbean countries, in Cuba and the Dominican Republic? Because they have a very established major league, or their own major league system over there of baseball, and that's how players there get recognized, is in that system. That's why we don't see them come over. But with the international draft coming in, maybe we see some changes to that system. I see Andrew Heaney to the Mets. Is that true? I wouldn't put anything to that yet. Oh, Trevor May. Okay, is who you're referring to. The reliever market, I mean, the Mets have a lot of openings back there. Blue Jays could use could use some bullpen help. I'm not really focusing on too much on the reliever market, especially at that level. At the closer market, I'm a lot more interested as far as great setup men like an Adam Ottavino. I'm a little bit more interested in as well. Not to anything against Trevor May, but right now that's where the market is focusing on. After we get those big fish off the board, then we can focus on those middle relievers, seventh, eighth inning guys that are not the names I mentioned right now. As a Rangers fan, what would you be willing to give up in a trade for Trevor Rogers? Nothing right now. I think the Rangers are hunting bigger game. Welcome in, James. Appreciate you joining us. I'm calling it now. Giants get Judge, a top shortstop, and one of the top starters. I think you might get 2 of the 3. I think 3 out of 3 is a little bit much to ask. As far as Giants getting Judge, we talked about that right off the top. It's leaning more and more and more towards the San Francisco Giants. The front office there is very confident right now, according to Bob Nightingale. We'll see if they ultimately end up getting him. Judge, again, is expected to be at the winter meetings, according to multiple reports. Now, there's nothing confirmed about that. There's no itinerary or anything planned. But if he shows up at the hotel tomorrow, I would expect an announcement tomorrow afternoon. As far as a top shortstop, I don't think Judge is going to go there alone. They're going to add a piece. I'd imagine it'd be one of Bogarts or Correa. And then, of course, they could add a starter. I don't think it will be a top starter. You see Liam Hendriks is available in trade. That's exactly what the White Sox are going to have to do. White Sox are going to have to trade one of their major leaguers because they don't want to add payroll to their roster right now. Hendriks does make a hefty penny. Rangers, I'd expect to be one of the teams interested in Liam Hendriks. That'd be a great addition, help them solve some of their late inning issues that they've had over the past couple of years in those run games. If they get Liam Hendriks with what they've done already, I'm calling it right there. They get a wild card spot next year without doing anything else to the team. If they get Liam Hendriks, I'm calling it right there. Can you explain the hype for Jason Dominguez? If you're saying he might be a bust, he's not as good as people thought he was. Well, he's had some struggles in the minor leagues over the past year or so. People wonder about his height. They wonder about his weight. They wonder about all those types of things. He didn't necessarily take off at the beginning of the year. Certainly played better in the second half of the year as he got more comfortable in the minor league system. And he's just going through the normal progression of a prospect. Do I think he's the instant all-star future Hall of Famer that everybody thought he was coming out of or coming into the league? No, I think he's still got a chance to be that, but to put that kind of a pressure on any prospect, let alone one with the question marks that are around Dominguez, I think is just a complete mistake by any organization. But thank you guys for joining us right now. Got about 45 of you guys in here. If you haven't hit that subscribe button already, please do so. We'll keep you guys updated just like we did throughout the day today as far as what's happening from the baseball winter meetings. I think my Red Sox get Craig Kimbrell for a reunion from a couple of years ago. They need to add more bullpen pieces. Kyle Bloom was interviewed today by the media, and he said he expected to add 7 to 8 major leaguers to the roster this offseason. They've already added a couple pieces of that bullpen. Craig Kimbrell would be a nice add for them. They could use some back-end bullpen help, but they aren't getting the top-end guys like we thought they would have, say, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Right now, they're struggling to get their top targets, at least for Jose Abreu, for Zach Eflin, etc. We'll see if they're able to get their top targets the rest of the way. Is Tyler Glasnow available for trade? I believe he could be, depending on what they're getting back. The injury issues are certainly a question mark for other teams interested in him. As far as Zach Gallen, absolutely not. He is certainly not available. But Tyler Glasnow could very well be had in a trade. I think if you're willing to give up, say, Sean Murphy and have Glasnow go to another team and give prospects to the A's, maybe that's a trade that works out for all the teams. This should be on MLB instead of the crap they show. Cubs sound like heavy favorites for Xander. Possibly. I'm still not sure they end up with Bogarts or Correa. I think the other big market teams will outbid them eventually. I think if they do end up with a shortstop, it could very well be Dansby Swanson. But they need to address that starting staff. That's what they should be investing their money on. I'm not sure why they aren't in as heavily as I would have expected them to be for a guy like Rodon or any one of those other starters out there. Thank you for the subscribe, Alejandro. Really appreciate it. He hasn't been hustling either. He has been slacking off. I would trade him. Let me see what you're... If you're referring to the Hendriks thing, they have a great bullpen there with the White Sox already. Didn't perform quite as well as they had hoped with at the outset of the season. They thought they had too much bullpen help. That's why they traded for A.J. Pollock by sending out Craig Kimbrell to the Dodgers. But as far as the other trade possibility of Tyler Glasnow, I mean, he's been injured, so I wouldn't really say that's, a hustle issue, etc. With the international draft coming soon, do you think it affects free agency even more with these bloated contracts getting worse and worse for a positional player specifically? Well, I think pitchers are starting to get ahead of position players as far as their overall contract, the impact that they have playing every fifth day, whereas a regular position player plays every single day. Now, he might get a day off, if there's a platoon situation, etc. But the shift is going away. We're going to see position players get a little bit more value, and starting pitchers start to decrease as far as their value just a little bit. So the market might just be equaling itself out. Any news on McCann? No news on McCann as of yet. If the Mets want to save some money, they could, of course, trade James McCann. Things have not worked out so far for him with the Mets. Things were great with him with the White Sox, but 2 years with the Mets so far have not gone well at all. Astros and Mariners are the two best teams in the division by far. I don't see the Rangers beating them since even with the moves they've made. I'm okay. The Mariners are a very good team. The Astros are still the class of the division in my estimation. But you're saying that the Rangers right now have a worse starting rotation than, say, a starting number one anyway, than the Houston Astros. I'm sorry, I would trust Jacob DeGrom over any other starter in the majors right now if he's healthy. That's why I'm saying if the Rangers get a guy like Liam Hendriks, you're adding a good 5-6 wins to that roster. Jacob DeGrom adds another 5-6 wins to that roster as well, and you're looking at a borderline 80, 85 win team there. And just with what their roster is expected to improve with, Simeon and Seager are going to have a little bit better years, especially with that pitching staff being managed with Bruce Bochy and Mike Maddox. That's another 5 wins right there. That gets you close to that 85, 87, 88 win mark. That gets you right in that playoff picture for a wild card spot. Xander Bogaerts, got a lot of comments coming in. Judge is in Florida watching the football game just now. Exactly, Lover. Welcome in. Appreciate you for joining us. Xander Bogaerts to the Dodgers for a contract average annual value of $65 million a year. No. Not happening. Way too much money. Not going to happen. Dodgers are trying to, save a little bit of money anyway for Shohei Ohtani next offseason. Be honest. Where do you see Judge? Which team? Right now, I'm kind of leaning towards the San Francisco Giants. All the way up until this evening, I would have told you Yankees by a hair. Right now, I'm telling you it's Giants by a hair because it sounds like the Giants front office is starting to get a sense from the Judge camp that Judge is wanting to find a greener pasture. We'll see how things work out, but that's just the feeling they're giving to reporters right now. They're expressing a confidence about what they're going to do after they bring in Aaron Judge. They're not just speaking solely in terms of possibly bringing in Aaron Judge anymore. That's why you're seeing media reports come out now about them feeling a lot more confident about bringing in a guy like Aaron Judge. Who's the best starter after Rodon? That would be Kodai Senga from the international leagues, but hasn't been... he hasn't pitched in the major leagues right now. So if you're looking at pitchers who've already pitched in the majors, that would be Chris Bassett. If you're the Giants, would you take Judge or would you get 3 other players? I would get Judge, and then I'd still add a couple of other pieces. I mean, even if they get Judge, that only raises their payroll to $165 million at best, because that would be roughly a $45 million guarantee per year to Judge. They could add another $20 million starter in Bassett. They could go out there and add a first baseman like Bell. They could leave Crawford at short if they wanted to for another year and maybe bring back Longoria on a short-term deal to solve third base, and then they're ready to go. And they'd still be able to have money to go out there and get a guy like Mitch Haniger to play their outfield. Not that they need him because they have Jock Peterson already out there. Of course, they could go out there for Brendan Nimmo. There's a lot of things that they could do because Judge is not going to be the only addition they make. They're going to have roughly another $40 million to spend in free agency, even if they bring in Aaron Judge. The Dodgers are another team that has a lot of money to spend this free agency. The Rangers still have a whole basket full of money. They got about $30+ million that they can spend in free agency. That's why they are still in there for a guy like Carlos Rodon. Giants need Judge to compete. We definitely showed weakness in our rotation, and I don't think the Giants will get Rodon. I think the Giants are still a very competitive team. Do I think that they're a playoff team as currently constructed? No, but if they get Aaron Judge, I think they're right there as far as a wild card, and they're going to still add some more pieces beyond that. And so I do expect them to be in that wild card picture as soon as this coming season. What teams, in your honest opinion, if a 3-team trade were to ever happen in baseball, are more likely to do that? Well, most 3-team trades usually involve the Cleveland Guardians, the Tampa Bay Rays, or the Oakland A's. Those are usually the teams that are used as kind of a facilitator to try to make bigger trades happen, so those would be the teams to kind of keep an eye out for. Marlins have shown interest in free agent third baseman Justin Turner. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he goes back on kind of a sweetheart deal for the LA Dodgers. If the Jays have $40+ million to spend after missing on Justin Verlander reportedly, do you think they allocate that money in a different way or go a trade route? I think they're going to make a trade with Danny Jansen. I think they're going to add a outfielder anyway, as far as a left-handed hitting outfielder. I think they're going to add a starting pitcher, and then they're going to add to the bullpen. They're going to divvy up that $40 million. The Rangers, welcome in, Tim. Appreciate you joining us. Haven't seen you in here before, but welcome to the Upside. If you guys haven't hit that subscribe button already, please do so. Like Alejandro did just a few minutes ago. Appreciate those of you who have already subscribed, and thank you for making this year fantastic for us. But welcome in, Mantis. Appreciate you joining us as well. The Rangers have 4 or 5 top prospects. That would be good for trade because no spot on the Major League team. That's exactly correct. Just before the winter meetings began, we put out a video about there being a lot of trade interest in Ezekiel Duran and Josh Smith. If they add another starting pitcher like a Rodon, there's nowhere in that rotation for Dane Dunning. He could be shifted out. We talked earlier today and last night about the possibility of them going after a relief pitcher. We just mentioned Liam Hendriks as a possibility to be traded. Maybe they move him to Detroit, give them a starter in return. Maybe they go to the Pittsburgh Pirates and talk about Bedard. There's a lot of ways that they could improve the team outside of investing free agent dollars, which they will still do. Can the Giants afford both Correa and Judge, or Judge and Bogaerts? Yes, they could. Over or under in the next 2 seasons for Max and Verlander in wins, 71.5. Ooh, good question. Pitcher wins are a little bit tough. They haven't improved that offense. If they lose Nimmo, their win numbers are going to go down. I still expect it to be north of 71 between the two of them. Verlander, you're probably looking 15 to 20 per year. So we'll call it on the low side 15. So that's roughly about 30. I'm going to imagine they get 1 or 2 extra. So we'll call it 35. 35 essentially is what I'd expect for Scherzer as well. So you're going to be right at about that 70, 71 win mark. I'll go ahead and say over just because they're exemplary pitchers. And as long as Scherzer holds up and Verlander holds up, I think they'll be right around that number. Do you think Bassett will get multiple years like he wants despite his age? Absolutely. The market for starting pitchers right now is through the roof. I expect somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 years, probably around $20 million per year. The Padres seem like a perfect fit. Nobody speaks higher about Chris Bassett than their manager, Bob Melvin. And Bob Melvin, I think, would run through a wall for that guy. But maybe he ends up going there and solving some of their rotation issues. Can you explain why a 3-team trade is not as common in sports like football and baseball, but you see a lot more of it in basketball and hockey? Okay, so there's not a salary cap in baseball. That's the primary reason why you don't see a lot of 3-team trades in the majors anyway. As far as for football, it's very difficult to see trades happening very often anyway in football. Very difficult to see to get 2 teams on the same page, let alone 3. Now basketball, just because the way salaries are structured, top-end talent getting $30 million, and then they still have to try to negotiate those salaries and get them to work around. You have some of those seller teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's why you see more 3-team trades there. As far as hockey, there's not a whole lot of 3-team trades in hockey, though. Basketball is where you really see the 3-team trades more than anything else. Between these 3 guys, if you had to choose to put one of them on the bump for one game in the playoffs, who would you choose? Kershaw, Mad Max, Verlander, or Beckett? You mean those 4 guys? Good question. Right now, I would not put Mad Max, but put Max Scherzer on the bump, say 3 years ago. I would absolutely say Max Scherzer. Now, Justin Verlander, he hasn't performed well in the playoffs as far as in the World Series specifically. So in a 1-game situation, I wouldn't really trust Verlander. Finally got that monkey off his back this year. Clayton Kershaw at this point is a little bit aging. Struggled in the playoffs as well. Now the conversation would really come down to between Mad Max and Beckett. And for me, I'd still choose Max Scherzer. And I know there's recency bias and all that, but give me Max Scherzer. But let's kind of update you guys on what's happening around the world of baseball. A lot of news today. Rule 5 draft is Wednesday, I believe. So we'll see what happens there. Sorry, just checking some headlines, making sure nothing happened for you guys while I've been talking. Just checking to see if there's a team that's actually been linked with Liam Hendriks. I don't really see a team being linked to him. Again, he's got probably about 2 years at about $29 million guaranteed if he gets traded anyway. His final year of his deal, he's got 1 year plus an option left. That option vests anyway if he is traded. So roughly you're looking at a 2-year, $29 million commitment if you make the deal for Liam Hendriks. Has an ERA around 2 for the last 4 years. He would be a dynamic performer for a team that needs a back-end closer. So looking at the Phillies, they need some help in the bullpen. The Red Sox are said to be looking for some help back there. The Yankees, of course, could use some. The Dodgers could use some as well. But I think the team with the greatest need and the biggest driving force for a back-end reliever would be a team like the Rangers. And I know I'm a Rangers fan, but they absolutely need to address their performance in one-run games. Bringing in Bochy and Maddox already is certainly going to help in those situations. They're going to have a much better feel for that pitching staff than any of the options they've had over the past 5 years. No insult to Chris Woodward or any of the other coaches they've had there, but I just really like having those two at the helm anyway for the Rangers. A lot more experience, a lot more savvy, knowing what to do, and overall just a great tandem there in Texas. Bringing in Liam Hendriks or another closer, whoever it might be, would be exactly what the doctor ordered for a team that struggled in one-run games. Over under the next 5 seasons for DeGrom, only starting 65 games. I'm going to take the well over that. I'm thinking if you put the over under at 100, I'm still taking the over for Jacob DeGrom. I mean, he doesn't have any issues as far as, constant, same injury happening over and over and over again that tells you it's going to be a debilitating, career-defining injury. It's one different injury after another different injury. So I imagine over the 5 years that he's with Texas, he'll be able to string together more than just 2 full seasons as far as a starting pitcher. If you had to choose a hitter for a one game and at bat, your choices are Reggie Jackson, Gary Sheffield, Chipper Jones, or Mickey Mantle. Reggie Jackson all day long. Welcome in, Jimmy. Appreciate you joining us. I wouldn't take that. Verlander over DeGrom. I think the best contract for a starting pitcher so far is the DeGrom contract because the Rangers got him for a lower AAV at $37 million. They're able to structure it in a way that only pays him $30 million the first year so that they can continue to add to this team around him. And as far as just the contract itself, sure, they have the option that will likely vest if he gets on the Cy Young voting one of those years. But like I just said, the injuries that he's had are not exactly injuries that are cumulative type of injuries anyway. Not the same, shoulder injury, shoulder injury, shoulder injury, shoulder injury. And he basically pitches very effortlessly. We saw that on the breakdown on MLB Network today anyway. I'm very excited with what the possibilities are for the Rangers with DeGrom. You think Verlander will pitch more innings in 2 years than DeGrom in 5? Verlander's only been back for 1 year from Tommy John, and he was fantastic, don't get me wrong, won the Cy Young. But 5 years of DeGrom versus 2 years of Verlander, I think that's a lot of Mets speak for saying, hey, we lost our guy, but now we got a guy coming back to Verlander that we're just happy to have Verlander. That's all I see there. I think Texas needs a closer, but they do not need any more relievers after that because Otto and other 5 starters are going to the pen. They've got a lot of transition starters back there. Brock Burke was fantastic out of the bullpen last year for the Rangers. They could bring back Matt Moore, probably the most dominant lefty you didn't think was dominant last year. Didn't give up a home run, I think, until September. I'm not even sure he gave up a home run the entire season. I have to check, but going into September, he hadn't given up one. Let's say DeGrom or Verlander hadn't signed. In your honest opinion, based on their personalities as a pitcher, who would handle New York media better if they played for the Yankees? Neither one, because it's the Yankees. Anybody's going to struggle there. But yeah, it is a whole lot of questions. But appreciate you guys joining us. Again, the big headlines from today, of course, Justin Verlander, 2 years, $86.6 million to the New York Mets. The Trey Turner, 11 years, $300 million to the Phillies. And now we're getting reports out there that the front office for the San Francisco Giants is feeling very bullish about their possibilities of bringing in Aaron Judge. They're not speaking in terms of the possibility of bringing Aaron Judge in. They're now speaking in terms of what are they going to do after they bring in Aaron Judge. That's usually a sign that things are moving in their favor, and maybe Aaron Judge ultimately does land in San Diego and is at the winter meetings tomorrow. That would be fantastic news. Absolute pandemonium. We'll be live. I'm absolutely here for that craziness. And the Yankees are going to have to figure out what they want to do. But if you guys are new here to The Upside, we cover Major League Baseball, the NBA, NFL, and the NHL. If you haven't hit that subscribe button already, what are you doing, man? Hit that subscribe. We'll keep you guys updated on every headline that's happening around Major League Baseball's winter meetings. As far as the Garoppolo injury, as far as the NFL, Odell Beckham Jr. was getting chants from the Dallas Mavericks crowd as he attended the game with Cowboys players today. The entire city has basically been shouting from the rooftops for him to come to Dallas. And it sounds like the Dallas Cowboys are the heavy favorite for Odell Beckham Jr. As far as the NHL, it sounds like Connor McDavid and Jason Robertson are going to be your front runners for the MVP this year. So we'll see who ends up winning it. But like I said, join us here at The Upside. We'll keep you guys updated on everything from around the entire sports world. Now, as far as the rest of the baseball news anyway, the Yankees are said to be interested in Brian Reynolds. They're also interested in NPB product Yoshida as well. So they're hoping to get a contact hitter as well as Aaron Judge. If they don't bring back Aaron Judge, I imagine their offseason plans change dramatically. I imagine they're going to pivot to one of the shortstops out there. I imagine they're going to try to make a big, high-end trade out there because they're going to bring in a shortstop. That means Volpe becomes a trade chip out there. If they do bring in Aaron Judge, then Pablo Lopez rumors will start all over again. Dodgers, I expected to be in there. The Blue Jays, I expect to be in there as well. But things are going to start happening at a breakneck pace over the next 24 hours. That's why I chose to come on with you a little bit later this evening. We started about 10 o'clock anyway. We're going to go through probably about the 11:30 hour unless we start seeing some big movement happen. According to SNY, they are planning to meet with Brandon Nimmo tomorrow or Wednesday. Is that the Yankees or the Mets? Mets, now that they've signed Justin Verlander, should move, in my opinion, to Brandon Nimmo. They need to address their offense at some point. That was the part that faltered in September and in the playoffs. They need to make some additions as far as bringing back Nimmo in center or the trade for Brian Reynolds, do something for their center field spot, add a third baseman, and attack their DH spot. Then, of course, they still have to address their bullpen. They're trying to bring back Adam Ottavino. I think they'll ultimately work out something there. But the Yankees are meeting with Brandon Nimmo. That would be a very interesting sign because he's 32 years old. If you sign Brandon Nimmo and you lose Aaron Judge, that's another big contract on your books for a 30-plus-year-old outfielder. You already have Aaron Hicks. You already have Giancarlo Stanton. I wonder if that's the right move. Now, if they get Nimmo in addition to Judge, now we're talking about them possibly being right back to where they were last year, maybe a little bit better. Because the Yankees are still going to have to improve off of what they had last year because it still wasn't good enough to even win a game against the Astros in the ALCS. They were swept. They need to get some improvement there. Their starting staff is going to need some improvements as well. They were said to be interested in bringing in Verlander. They're said to be in the market for Carlos Rodon. It sounds like the Yankees are they're the biggest market team out there with the most activity in the Carlos Rodon market right now. But again, the Rangers are right there. The Mets are right there. The Cubs have had some interest anyway. The Twins and the Giants could all be right there for Carlos Rodon. A little bit of news on the Minnesota Twins front is that they are looking at Carlos Correa as their number one option, but they're looking for a frontline ace as well. We saw some news out there that they're looking at Carlos Rodon as the backup plan as far as finances if they're unable to bring in Carlos Correa. So maybe the market for Carlos Rodon might move a little bit too quickly for the Twins' liking. That's why we heard a rumor today that Luis Arraez, the guy who won the American League batting average title from Aaron Judge in the final few weeks of the season to take away the Triple Crown from Aaron Judge, he is on the trade block if they get an ace-level pitcher back in return. Sorry, Bush Girl, I'm just checking to see if that's a news or if you're just saying that. I think you're just saying that right now. But anyway, the Rangers need to add a power outfield help. Would you think of them spend the rest of the cap on Judge? Well, it's to stay under the luxury tax, but they do have room for a guy like Judge. I think they need to add rotation help. It'd be surprising if they went with Judge. They very well could do that. I don't think they're really in there at that number, though. I don't think they're really in on that number total, honestly. I think they could use their money better in other ways. I think Mitch Haniger is far more likely. I think addressing a closer spot is far more likely. And I think addressing starting rotation is far more likely. As far as their need for a power bat, they don't need power. Their power was just fine. They need on-base percentage. They need contact-type hitters. And so that's why I thought maybe as an outside chance that they could be in the market for a Trey Turner at the beginning of this season. And we just saw that he was looking to go back to the East Coast. They really didn't have a shot for him. But adding a stolen base monster, a contact-type hitter like Trey Turner, who's added power to his game, would have been a great free agent for the Rangers. Put him in left field out there. He would have been a fantastic Ranger, but they needed to add starting rotation help more than anything else. And I still expect them to add another starter before the meetings are indeed over. To be honest, as a Yankee fan, I want Judge back so bad, but I would love to see the craziness as Judge goes. It will be fun, yeah. I agree, Bryce. The craziness that will ensue will be absolutely legendary. I'm not sure the baseball world has seen anything like what the Yankees will do if they lose Aaron Judge. I mean, just the way that fans are instantly going to turn on him like that. I mean, Brian Cashman just signs that big extension. Immediately, they're going to be calling for his head. Same thing for Hal Steinbrenner. Doesn't matter what they do. Doesn't matter if they bring in Carlos Correa. Doesn't matter if they go out there and get Fernando Tatis Jr., they're going to be clamoring for somebody's head. They're going to ask for somebody's you know they're going to be looking for somebody to take the fall for losing Aaron Judge. And after giving that extension to Brian Cashman, it's not going to be him. As a San Francisco Giants fan, this makes me nervous because every winter meetings, every trade deadline, the Giants are always in the running, but always a bridesmaid, never the bride. Well, they've been not exactly a World Series bound team, I'll say, over the last 5-6 years, ever since those 2010, 2012, 2014 teams. Those were the last time we could really consider the Giants as a true contender for a World Series title. The loss of Posey, turning over the roster, aging veteran roster, one fluke season with Longoria, Belt, Crawford all having career years was not sustainable, and we'll see if anything happens there. Welcome in, Rivers. Appreciate you joining us. For those of you just joining us, got 35, 36 of you guys on here right now. Really appreciate the support. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. Can't tell you enough how thankful I am for those of you who have already subscribed. Thank you guys for making this year so much fun. But to answer your question, Mr. Rivers, is Young still in a Ranger uniform, or is he going to be dealt? He will absolutely be in a Rangers uniform for at least the next couple of years. He is their third base answer. They need to save some money at different spots. They have young guys in center, in right, at first base, at third base. They have a lot of good young rotation options in the minor leagues and a couple of good young options at catcher. And they're going to have to use that financial flexibility right now to address other needs on the team. That's why they're not going to trade a guy like Josh Young. However, they could trade from their starting pitching depth as far as the AAA pitchers that they have and AA prospects. They could also trade from their depth as far as middle infield talent, Josh Smith, Ezekiel Duran, Justin Foscue. There's also rumors out there that they're in the market for a guy like Sean Murphy. If they bring in Sean Murphy, maybe that means Jonah Heim ends up being dealt, maybe in a deal for a closer. The Rangers are trying to do anything they can to get into postseason contention once again. That's why they brought in Bruce Bochy. They did not bring him in to make incremental improvements and have a 4-year plan. No, we saw the interview today with Bruce Bochy. There is not a 4-year plan. There is a win-now plan, and that is an organizational mandate from the owner on down. Thank you for subscribing, Mr. Rivers. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. I think Judge goes to San Francisco because he wouldn't be coming here just to talk. He would sign a contract. Also, the fact that the Yankees have no clue that Judge could be in San Diego tomorrow. I think that's another reason to kind of read the tea leaves, I guess. I don't think that's the primary reason why San Francisco seems to be the front runner as of right now. But San Francisco certainly has jumped up over the past 24 hours. They seem like the team that could indeed land a top-end piece like Aaron Judge and then still make other moves on top of that to build around Judge. Whereas the Yankees might have some difficulties building around Judge because of their financial restraints, that kind of thing, because of the poor contract choices they've made in the past. Aaron Hicks, Giancarlo Stanton, DJ LeMahieu, Josh Donaldson. The starting rotation could use some addressing, and they still need to make additions to that outfield, contact hitters, etc. They don't know exactly what they're going to have as far as a shortstop. They're counting on Volpe to be great, but they still have Torres there at second base. There's rumors they could move him. There's a lot of question marks, moving pieces that could happen around the Yankees over the next 365 days. So if he leaves to go to the Giants, get your popcorn ready and just be ready for the chaos. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you, Mr. Rivers. Really appreciate that. Thanks. You earned my sub. I really appreciate thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed already, just invite you to subscribe. It really does help us out. Those of us who do YouTube channels and that kind of a thing, I'm still not even monetized yet. I'm in the review process for that to hopefully be monetized at some point. But I finally crossed that 1,000 subscriber requirement, and we'll see if we ultimately get to the monetization. And hopefully I can do this for you full time. But thank you guys for subscribing and liking the video. But but as a Yankee fan here, I want Judge back. I think as a Yankee fan, you have to have Aaron Judge back. I mean, what's the alternative? Aaron Judge was absolutely dominant for your team, but I'm not sure, even if you get Aaron Judge back, that you're a lock to make the ALCS next year. I mean, for the last 6 years, the Astros have been right there, and basically they've been your daddy. I mean, remember the days back when Pedro Martinez and the Red Sox were going up against the Yankees, and then finally he just had to say, the Yankees are my daddy after they won a playoff game against him. Well, maybe we're seeing something like that happen as far as the Astros' absolute dominance over the Yankees. If they bring back Aaron Judge without doing anything else, they're in hot water. And it sounds like the market might be starting to turn on them, and it sounds like Aaron Judge could be leaning just ever so slightly towards the San Francisco Giants. Welcome back, MVP. It has been a while. It's been at least, a month or two? Appreciate you joining us again. So did Texas get anyone when I was gone? Yes, they've added a few pieces. They added Bruce Bochy, Mike Maddox. They've added Jacob deGrom is the biggest fish, 5 years, $185 million. Appreciate you joining us. Once again, I don't know if Judge wanted to be in New York. He would have signed 8 for $300. I wouldn't have signed that deal either. If I'm Aaron Judge and I was strictly, New York bound, I was New York through and through, which, by the way, he isn't. That's why he's so torn between the Giants, where he grew up, and his favorite team when he was a kid, etc. But if he was a New York Yankee through and through, it would have at least have been 8 at 320. That was what the parameters looked like they were going to be at the beginning of this season, and yet he still had one of the greatest offensive seasons in the history of Major League Baseball. But yes, the Texas Rangers did indeed add Jacob deGrom, 5 years, $185 million. You should have seen MLB Network anyway. As a Rangers fan, I've gotten used to seeing Matt Vasgersian on Hot Stove just basically poo-poo any Rangers rumor about them possibly getting better, and just the disdain of which he does it just irked me so much. And he said on the air that, yeah, I've got to eat crow. I guess they did get Jacob deGrom. Like, it was no big deal. I'm sorry. Matt Vasgersian, you owe an apology to the Texas Rangers fan base. I mean, the way at which you dismantled the possibility of them even being in the running for any of these starting pitchers. You owe an apology to Major League Baseball fans of the Texas Rangers. I know you're an A's fan, but come on, man. You're supposed to be a national broadcaster. You should do better. I mean, I'm doing this, part-time, or trying to make it a full-time job, and I try to at least make fans aware of where my biases are and still try to give every single team out there a fair shake. I don't have any team out there that I hate, and Matt Vasgersian, you owe us an apology. Just saying. Trey Turner did indeed sign with the Philadelphia Phillies. We knew basically since the All-Star break that he was wanting to go back to the East Coast. It sounded like Philadelphia was likely going to be the destination at that point, but we thought maybe Bogaerts could be their preferred candidate. After the season was over, the rumors basically intensified even more so. It became clear that both sides were looking at each other and saying, hey, we want this to work. And then over the last 24, 48 hours, rumors started to come out that Trey Turner was speaking to the Padres and other teams to try to drive up that price, while the Phillies were said to be talking about Correa and Bogaerts. We knew both sides were just talking and negotiating through the media, but both sides got something out of the deal that they liked. For the Philadelphia Phillies, they, of course, answered their shortstop question. They add a great bat, with especially Bryce Harper going down due to injury and expected back hopefully after the All-Star break. They also answered the question as far as speed on that team. They did not have a lot of speed at all. And bringing in possibly one of the best stolen base artists right now, maybe even one of the best stolen base artists in the history of Major League Baseball, will certainly help, especially with the rule change that only allowed 2 tosses over to first base. Should really help him out as well. Sure, it's an 11-year deal, but the AAV is certainly lower because they linked it out to 11. This is where Trey Turner got what he wanted. He gets the $300 million number. Didn't quite get the AAV that he wanted, but the Phillies are going to be able to add another starter because they lowered the AAV just ever so slightly underneath $30 million. Swanson should go back to the Braves. They've got a lot of possibilities that they could go with. There's some rumors out there that they were close to being acquiring Sean Murphy. Think of that as kind of the move that they made last year with Matt Olson to replace Freddie Freeman before Freddie Freeman actually made the decision to leave to go to L.A. Maybe that's their way of preempting that kind of a thing, but we got the headline right after that. Mark Feinsand walking back that report saying, no, they weren't on the 1-inch line or anything like that, but maybe we'll see a Sean Murphy trade here at the winter meetings. The Rays, the Guardians, the Cardinals seem like the most likely destinations, but the Cubs are in there. There's a lot of teams that could use a guy like Sean Murphy. Any news? Not any news as of yet, but the only news right now is the Aaron Judge stuff right now. More Twins news. Twins are pursuing Correa, Vasquez, and others. Surprising because the Twins have had a kind of a revolving door at catcher over the past year or so. Gary Sanchez, Jeffers, among others. Mitch Garver as well in the past. Maybe they'll finally get their guy in Christian Vasquez, but They need to improve that team and be able to put a playoff contender on that field for them. They were in first place in that division until that All-Star break, and then right after that, or until the trade deadline, and then just fell off a cliff. And they're looking for a frontline starter. They prefer to bring back Carlos Correa, but if they don't, they're going to try to go after Carlos Rodon or even trade for one by sending out Luis Arraez, possibly for a guy like Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, somebody who could head that rotation. If they do, they're still going to be good, yeah. Tim, I don't hate any team, but starting to hate Mets fans for the way they act after DeGrom left. A lot of that can be a result of the way the media handles that in New York as well. Don't give too much hate to the media or to the fans of New York because of that. But as far as media members, I'm not even a paid media member as of yet. I don't get paid to do this, just so you guys know. Not yet, anyway. But Matt Vasgersian, you owe the Rangers an apology, and that's all I'll say about that. Maybe that's too much. Hope Texas goes to the ALCS next year. I don't think they'll go to the ALCS. I think they're going to be vastly improved and could make a run for a wild card spot. Maybe even make it to the divisional series. ALCS would be a step too far, I think, for reasonable fans to expect. I think they could expect some growth this year from some of their younger players on the roster, but this team is going to be much better than they were last year. What's your opinion on the Baltimore Orioles? Will Grayson stick as a effective starter in 2023, or does he need more seasoning? I think it's all about what they do around that rotation. If they bring in Eovaldi with the addition of Kyle Gibson, those veterans need to teach those guys how to prepare, how to pitch to major leaguers, how to deal with disappointment and struggles at the major league level. If they add another number 3 type starter to that staff to help shepherd those young guys, then the Orioles could really have something. I think they're going to be right at the wild card door once again next season. And then a year from now, we could really be talking about them as a contender for the division title. My buddy who works for ESPN, who is at the winter meetings, just called me and told me there's a third team creeping in for Judge, and I would be shocked. He did not tell me who it was, but where will the worst first... you can't leave us with a but on that one, James. Who's the team? I mean, the Dodgers were expected to be the team. I mean, who else could spend the money? The Red Sox? I mean, they were in the news today about possibly being a suitor there, but there's no reason for Judge to go to the Red Sox. That's the worst situation out of all the teams that he could have gone to. I mean, looking at the teams that were even rumored to be interested in him. Yankees, Red Sox are worse. Rangers, much better team right now and much brighter future than the Red Sox. Dodgers, again, far better than the Red Sox situation. And the Giants, again, a better spot than the Red Sox. So, who knows? Where will the worst first baseman ever go? I'm talking about Brendan Belt. He's not the worst first baseman ever. By the way, he's actually from my neck of the woods. I think he actually has a home like 30 minutes from me here in East Texas. He does like local car ads and that kind of a thing. Great guy, had a great year, not last year, but the year before. That's why he got the qualifying offer, etc. But had a down year certainly last year. I think he needs to go somewhere to kind of round out his career. I think St. Louis would be a great spot if they don't bring in Matt Carpenter, which I think is a very real possibility for the Cardinals, to add a DH-type hitter there. I think a platoon spot for Belt would be a great rounding out of his career. Heck, the Rangers need some DH help. Maybe they'll bring him in. I mean, it would only be, an hour away from his house? Well, he actually lives further away from Dallas than I do, so 2 hours away. Who do you think is the biggest sleeper of the free agents? We all know the top guys, but who are the middle of the road would you say is going to make the biggest flex? I think Correa is going to stun people as far as, the contract he gets and where he wants to go. I think he wants to make an absolute impact as far as, a stamp, especially after watching the Astros win the World Series without him. But as far as the not top tier guys, Mitch Haniger is one guy I'm keeping my eye out for as a Ranger fan. I think if he had his year from 2021 that he had, or in his platform year this year, I think we're talking about a guy at the top end of the market who probably commands a contract around $100 million over 5 years, in that same class with Brendan Nimmo. But the fact is, he might have the biggest bang for your buck of the free agents not in that top tier class. As far as starting pitching, there's not a lot of starters out there that I like. The starting pitching market outside of the top guys is relatively thin. That's why I think the trade market could be had. Now, as far as bullpen options, bullpen guys are always up and down. You might get a real chance to get a steal out of that group every single year. But, pieces like Corey Knable, who've had great success in the past. Maybe you get a 1 year flyer. Zach Britton could take a 1 year prove it type of a deal, heavily incentive laden type of a deal. That would be fantastic. You question your buddy, and it doesn't sound like the Dodgers, but it sounded like the Padres. I don't know what or how they can afford him though. I mean, the Padres do need an outfielder. That'd be very interesting. Welcome in, or yeah, I'm about probably from Rockwell, probably about an hour and change from you guys to the east anyway. But I'll be going to quite a few Rangers games this year. Black Friday deal, I took advantage of that, and I'll be going to watch some baseball. Heck, I might even do a live while I'm at the stadium. Who knows? Not sure if they'll let me, but that'd be an interesting live to do from the stadium. He's a West. He says it's a West Coast team, so no, not the Rangers. Okay, maybe Seattle. No, I think we're getting a little crazy off the deep end there with that one. I'm still going to stick with the rumors out there from Bob Nightingale that the Giants are growing to be very comfortable with their position for Aaron Judge. It's kind of what we led off the show with here tonight, anyway. That Aaron Judge. It seems like we might have a new front runner in the clubhouse for him, and Aaron Judge leaving the Yankees by itself is a seismic story on its own. Wherever he ends up going, things could be very interesting. Maybe Seattle. I mean, they do say that they want an outfielder for Seattle. I wouldn't say no if I'm the Mariners, but it just doesn't sound like that would be the fit. I mean, they have a great rotation. They seem like they're ready to go. I'm just not sure Judge fits financially for what they're wanting to do. Welcome in, JG. We're doing pretty great, just kind of checking in on all the free agent rumors out there. Going to stick with you guys hopefully for another half hour. If something does break, though, we will definitely stay a lot longer. Remember, it's only 9:05 on the West Coast where the winter meetings are being held. This is usually where teams try to wrap up some of those conversations that they've been having throughout the day. If they're getting close on a trade, maybe it gets them to push it across the finish line. No longer will you see, drunken trades like they used to have like 30 years ago, where one of the GMs would be down in the lobby just enjoying a beer or two or three or four and make a trade. Everybody's very analytical, has big, vast teams with them. Everybody examines things down to, the micro, inch of everything. But we should get some activity, hopefully, tonight. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Marlins are interested in Justin Turner. We discussed that one a moment ago. I still expect him to go back to the Los Angeles Dodgers. You remember when Josh left the Rangers for LA? So I would feel the pain if Judge leaves. Yeah. Yeah, Josh Hamilton leaving the Rangers to go to the Angels was an absolute slap in the face to the Rangers organization that helped him through all of his struggles. And in the long run, it ultimately didn't work out for Josh. Fell right back into all the struggles that he had before he left the Rangers. Came back to the Rangers, corrected himself for a few years, and then is going through, we'll call it significant legal trouble since he left the Rangers for the second time. And the Rangers basically have washed their hands of him, saying, we've done enough. You need to stand on your own 2 feet and solve some of your own problems. And the Rangers aren't completely backing away from him, but they're not supporting him the same way that they had in the past. You can look up those struggles on Google if you want. There are very serious charges that were against him, and we won't repeat them on the air here, but he needs to take care of himself more than anything else. Now, those troubles were about a year ago, as far as when those troubles first came to light. Maybe he's corrected those problems since then, but I do remember that. How fluid is a Murphy trade? It's weird to see the Astros jump in. Don't think the Astros have the pieces to make the trade go through. I think any team has has the pieces to make a Murphy trade to go through because it's only going to cost you one premium prospect and probably two other prospects that have some decent ceiling on them, if you will. So I think any team could be there. For the Astros, though, I think they're just going to end up with Wilson Contreras. It just sounds like Crane is going to be able to make that deal happen. I'm not sure if that's the right move for the organization, though. I think Murphy's the better all-around player. I would go for Murphy if I'm the Astros, but we'll see how things go for him. Once Judge lands, I feel like the floodgates will open and all teams will react. Once Judge lands, the market is going to pause like they do after any big free agent signing. It'll pause for anywhere between 30 minutes to 2 to 3 hours, at most 6 hours, and then the floodgates absolutely will break free. I think Haniger could sign quickly after that. Benintendi could, Conforto could. A lot of those outfielders could sign. We could see the shortstop market move as well. The middling starting pitcher market could move very quickly as well. Do you think the Giants could add a catcher? Yes, I do. Would you say Matt Olson trade was good? A year later, Olson's been a great fit for the Braves. They got a great contract at their number, but they did give up their young prospect in Shea Langeliers in that deal. I wonder if they have the trade to do over again, if they'd rather have invested 2 other prospects rather than Shea Langeliers in that deal, so that they'd have their catcher of the future still and not have to go out there and make another trade for a catcher. C.J. Wilson and Josh leaving saved us a lot of money, sure, but it also signaled the end of that contending era of the Rangers. They had to retool it for a couple of years and then completely fell on their face. What do you think of the Japanese pitchers for the Rangers? I would really like to see Senga as kind of a lower cost option go to the Rangers, bring in Mitch Haniger, trade for a bullpen arm, and let that be your starting staff. But I think there's an outside chance we get an even better starter in Carlos Rodon, go for the trade route for a left fielder and a closer. That could be another route the Rangers go. Posey out of retirement for the Rangers, not happening. That would be very interesting, but I mean, they did bring in Bochy out of retirement. He'd been away for 3 years. Not necessarily retirement, but he had stepped away just before the COVID stuff started, and he joked on MLB Network that he chose the exact right time to leave baseball, at least for a little bit, and get some space and clear his head. Boris makes a lot of money every single year. He'll make even more this year. Got 50 of you guys with us right now. Wow. Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to keep you, we're the Upside Sports Network here. We'll keep you guys updated on everything that happens from the winter meetings. We cover the NFL, NBA, MLB, and the NHL. So make sure you drop a subscribe. We really do appreciate it. We've gained a few during this live already. Thank you guys for subscribing already. And if you haven't, what are you waiting for? As far as Correa and the Cubs, I think there's a possibility that happens. But again, I'm waiting to see what happens with Judge. Correa, I think, is waiting for that market as well. Because if the Yankees lose Judge, I think the market steps up quite a bit for Carlos Correa. I think he easily gets over $300 million if Judge leaves. Now, if he doesn't, I think he ultimately ends up with either the Dodgers or the Giants, probably around a 10-year, 280, 290, maybe 300 max. Twins are pursuing Correa, Vasquez, and others per Rosenthal. Yeah, we just mentioned that one anyway. The Twins are hoping to bring in Carlos Correa. Of course, they already have him under contract. He opted out of that 3-year, $105 million deal. And sounds like they really want to bring him back to kind of legitimize what they did last year as far as bringing him in the first place. But they still want to add a starting pitcher at the top of that rotation. It sounds like they want to add a catcher. That's why I mentioned that they've had some turmoil at catcher over the past couple of years. Gary Sanchez, Jeffers, Mitch Garver, etc. This would be yet another catcher, Christian Vasquez anyway, to solve that spot. Hopefully he actually would provide some stability for the Twins there. Read something that the clubs could get both shortstops. Not happening. Cubs are not playing at that level of free agency. They're balking at Carlos Correa's asking price already. That's why they shifted to Xander Bogaerts. Now with the Trey Turner number coming in well beneath what it was, they've at least talked with Carlos Correa today in person anyway. Welcome back, William. Do the Dodgers get Swanson or Correa now that Trey Turner is gone? I think they get Correa or Bogaerts, honestly. If Judge signs with San Francisco, the Yankees will be in panic mode. I think it'll be in nuclear meltdown mode if the Yankees lose Aaron Judge. That's how important he is to their offseason. There is no backup plan for Aaron Judge. If they lose Aaron Judge, calling it right now, they will finish as a bottom 4 or 5 team in the AL East. They will not sniff the playoffs next year without Aaron Judge. Are the Mets landing another bat? They should add at least one more bat, probably 2, in addition to bringing back Brendan Nimmo, and that's a big if. Should they bring back Nimmo? Absolutely, but if they don't, there's Brian Reynolds that they could trade for. Those are kind of the center field options for the Mets next year. You think Gavin Lux will be the Dodgers' opening day shortstop? So you're thinking Mookie Betts moves to second base. There has been some rumblings about him moving to second base, whether or not they get Aaron Judge this offseason. I think obviously the Dodgers would love to bring in Aaron Judge and just, have that fill in their lineup and help lengthen out that lineup. But again, the Dodgers have a lot more holes than just one big bat in their lineup. They got a lot of poor production from 5 through 9 in their lineup. Their rotation is a lot thinner than it has been in the past. Their bullpen's been thinner than it has been in the past. They have a lot of needs, and going for Aaron Judge, while it would be a great get for them, would certainly help their team and put them right back in the postseason next year. I wonder about their ability to stay in the postseason long term if they sign Aaron Judge. Any chance the Dodgers get Judge, Rodon, Bogaerts, Correa, or Swanson? I think the Dodgers end up with Bogaerts or Correa. I think Swanson will likely go to the Cubs or Braves. They finished first because Aaron Judge is an aircraft carrier type player. He provides so much protection in that lineup for guys who, when Judge isn't there, are going to crumble, absolutely crumble under the pressure. I mean, look at what we just saw from Giancarlo Stanton. When Judge has been out due to injury in the past, Giancarlo Stanton, his strikeout numbers go through the roof. His walk rate drops through the floor. His on-base percentage is never going to be, one of the elite on-bases out there. But he's a lot better player with Aaron Judge in the lineup. Same thing could be said for guys like Aaron Hicks, etc. A lot of those bigger contracts are going to have a lot more pressure on them, and that's without adding any pieces. Now, say they do go out there and get a guy like Carlos Correa to fill that spot. That would be a great get for them, but again, I'm not saying that's putting them ahead of the Rays, right, or the Blue Jays even. I think the Blue Jays and Rays, without Judge, are instantly going to be ahead of the Yankees next year. I just don't see the Yankees really being able to rebound from the loss of Judge and just the pressure that is going to be on that team. The pressure on that front office to be able to make a run without Aaron Judge is going to be prolific. And I think they're going to crumble underneath that pressure. Now, next year, if they lose Aaron Judge this offseason and are able to somehow convince Shohei Ohtani to come to New York, that'd be the one guy out there that could fill the role of an Aaron Judge in that team. But they are certainly not going to be a better team no matter what they do if they lose Aaron Judge. And the Blue Jays are going to be right there. The Rays are going to be right there. The Orioles were right there on the verge of making a playoff run. Do I think the Orioles right now are on paper are better than the Yankees with Aaron Judge? No. Without Aaron Judge and all the pressure and the additions that are still to come for both teams, do I think I could see the Yankees in the 4 spot? Absolutely. Do I think free agents might steer clear of the Yankees if they lose Aaron Judge? Quite possibly. Not that they're going to completely leave because the Yankees are still going to be a free agent lure, but I think some of their top targets might give it a second thought at least, as opposed to saying, hey, the Yankees are interested, where do I sign? They might go, hey, the Yankees are interested, what are they offering? As opposed to, where do I sign? But appreciate you guys joining us. Angels are doing too many moves is very weird. Well, they do a lot of these type of moves every single year. We saw them make the move for Noah Syndergaard last year, Rendon a couple years before that, the Josh Hamilton moves, the Albert Pujols, the C.J. Wilsons. They continue to try to add via free agency, the Dylan Bundys of the world. Nothing has seemed to work, and hopefully this year's iteration of it will work for them. Would trade the farm for Sandy Alcantara if I was the Rangers. He's not going to be available, though. What is the race for Judge down to, Itai? The finalists for Judge, it sounds like, are going to be the Giants and the Yankees. I told you guys all offseason long I expected the Yankees ultimately to land him. I thought they had just a little bit better a chance to be able to bring him in than the Giants. It sounds like it's a 2-team race between the Giants and the Yankees, with the Giants feeling very confident about their chances over the last 24 hours about bringing in Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge could be at the winter meetings as soon as tomorrow. We might even get a news conference tomorrow afternoon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I'd imagine both of those things are good signs for a team that wants to bring him in, not named the New York Yankees. Will Freddie Freeman have more home runs next season? Hit or miss on that one. Freddie Freeman was prolific offensively last year, had that great long hitting streak as well. He's not necessarily a great home run hitter, but he does a lot more with his bat than just hit home runs. He impacts the game in so many different ways. MLB Insider, Yankees may get Nimmo, Mets eyeing Taillon, Twins big targets, Cubs, Correa and Swanson, team for Bellinger, Heaney, Lugo, Murphy, Market, etc. per Heyman. Well, we talked a little bit already about the Nimmo thing. If they need an outfielder who can make some contact. The Mets, we've talked about them eyeing Taillon. They did that before the winter meeting, so that's a little bit of an old story. They are expected to be outbid for his services. They seem to have a clear idea of what they want to be able to offer players. They did that with DeGrom. 3 years, 120 was their max. They did that with Verlander and were able to get their man. So seems like Taillon basically had a long staring contest with the Mets, and the Mets backed away before Taillon did. As far as a team for Bellinger, it sounds like Bellinger wants to sign a 1-year deal. We could see him sign any number of places, but the front runners, I would imagine, are the Blue Jays, the Orioles, the Cubs, and possibly a team like the Mariners. But those are the teams I would keep my eyes peeled for in a Cody Bellinger type signing. Heaney, there's been some interest as far as the Blue Jays and the Mets as far as a back end of the rotation option. Only pitched like 72 innings of 3.1 ERA ball for the Dodgers last year. Has a lot of injury issues, so it might not cost him a whole bunch. Might be just a 1-year deal, maybe in the $8 to $10 million range. With the Mets now that they have Verlander, do you think the Mets make it to the World Series? No, not as currently constructed. They still need to add at least 2 more starters. They need to bring back Nimmo or bring in a center fielder, and then they still need to improve that offense based off of what they just did last year. They still have to address that bullpen where they had 6 free agents this year and have brought back only Edwin Diaz so far. How long do GMs stay negotiating till they go to their room until the next day? Just like to what time and estimate. Most of the time, from what I've experienced anyway, covering from watching the winter meetings pretty much religiously every single year. Right now it's 9:19 West Coast time. You're probably going to see negotiations go well into the 11 o'clock hour West Coast time. So that's going to be 1 o'clock Central. That's going to be 2 o'clock East. So that's about when I'd see the most of those negotiations start to fall off, because a lot of these negotiations, the agents might not be in the building there. The players may be on the East Coast, like Aaron Judge was at the Tampa Bay game in Tampa tonight, and right around 11 o'clock is what I'd expect on the East Coast. We'll stay up for you guys once we do get off of the live here, just in case nothing happens. We will be up for you guys. We'll let you guys know if anything does happen. Which pitcher or pitchers will the Dodgers get, in your opinion? They were in on Verlander. I think they're kind of surprised they didn't land him because DeGrom did leave to go to the Rangers. I think they thought that they were going to end up with Verlander because they thought DeGrom was going to go to the Mets. Now that that is not a possibility, I wonder if they're going to go the trade route for a starting pitcher. If I'm the Dodgers, I make a call to the Marlins for Pablo Lopez, who they've been connected for multiple times. I would make a call to the Brewers about Corbin Burns. I don't think they'll trade you Burns, but I think you should at least make the call. You talk about Shane Bieber for the Guardians as well, but I think the trade route might ultimately be the way the Dodgers end up trying to fill their rotation out. I think a lot of people were sad when he left his team. Yes, they were. I was one of them. I grew up a Braves fan to a certain extent, and Freddie was my favorite player on their team. Still probably my favorite player right now on the Dodgers. Just really love the way he approaches just hitting in the box. Great defensive first baseman as well. But just his approach at the plate, kind of a line-to-line hitter. He's not necessarily one of those guys like a Joey Gallo who's going to pull the ball 85% of the time. News going around is that Judge and Hal Steinbrenner met in Tampa today. That makes sense. I imagine he's going to meet with the San Francisco representatives tomorrow. That would worry me a lot more if I'm a Aaron Judge or a New York Yankees fan. I would really worry about that possibility, is that he met with Hal Steinbrenner in Tampa, and yet he still didn't sign the deal, and yet he's going to go to San Diego where the winter meetings are being held. And whenever a player usually goes to the winter meetings, it's usually for either A, to kind of advertise himself, which is what we saw with Yasiel Puig today, literally walking around the lobby of the hotel trying to get a team to talk to him a little bit, to drum up some interest. Puig will not get a major league contract. Too many red flags right now for him. But Aaron Judge is not that type of free agent. He's the free agent everybody wants to sign this offseason, and he's going there to make a decision, I believe. And hopefully we get that done tomorrow afternoon. Make sure you subscribe to us. We'll keep you guys updated if something does break. You'll get a short little video, probably 15-second video about what's going on, and then we'll immediately go live afterward, just like we did today for Verlander and for Turner. He went to the Dodgers, which is what he wanted. I'm not sure that's what he ultimately wanted. I think he ultimately wanted to stay with the Braves. They made their choice, though, and went with Matt Olson. I think the money was just a little bit too much of an issue. We already talked about the Tampa Bay thing there. You can call me a Braves fan. I like the Rangers way more. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the country is more of Braves fans anyway than we actually realize because everybody grew up with them as a national TV game on TBS. You saw Yoenis Cespedes is going to play for Cuba in the World Baseball Classic. Yeah, I saw that too. I wonder if he's going to get another shot in Major League Baseball. I don't see it happening, but maybe a team sees his performance in the WBC and is impressed enough, especially with the need for a great bat out there, the lack of top end outfielders on the market this year. Maybe a team goes after him for his power, but I don't see it happening as of yet. But we'll see how he performs in the WBC. I think it's too early to say one way or the other. You're really hoping for them to win the series against the Stros, and they did. Well, I don't know. Dodgers have a lot of questions to answer, though, especially if Judge goes within that division. Then you got two really good teams in that division, just like the Astros are going to have two good teams in their division to contend with them. The NL West and the AL West have basically been rebuilding teams over the past several years, to say the least, for the Astros and Dodgers. Part of the reason why they were able to rack up higher win totals than they otherwise might have if other teams have been more competitive in their own division. Now with the schedule going to an even 13 games anyway, as opposed to 19 divisional games with each opponent, we might see a little bit more parity in the league as well. We'll see how this first year works out with the more even, more balanced schedules this year. We might see some crazy different records than we have in the past. You'll be in the chat if Judge signs with the Yankees or Giants. If the Giants, I'm literally going to start losing it and I'll not get over it, and Cashman will not hear the end. Sam with Hal. The same with Hal. Yeah, I mean, they would earn it. I told you guys Cashman probably would be the fall guy if they didn't sign Aaron Judge. He just signed the extension, so it's not going to be Cashman. They might blame an assistant GM for their reason for not signing Aaron Judge, and that would just be hilarious if they did something like that, if they lost Aaron Judge. I mean, it's Cashman, it's Hal Steinbrenner. They're the guys speaking with Aaron Judge on a daily basis, you'd have to imagine. And they've had years to convince Aaron Judge to sign an extension. They basically gave him a slap in the face offer as far as an extension, 6 years, 200 earlier this offseason, or just before the season began. Of course, he had the monstrous season this year, really inflated his numbers, etc. But in either event, it ain't going to be pretty if they lose Aaron Judge. I'll just put it that way. Who do the Texas Rangers go for next? In my opinion, I think they should go for a starting pitcher first, whether that be Rodon or Senga, or the trade market for a Woodruff or Burns or a Lopez or whoever else might be out there. But I think they still need to add one more starting pitcher. If they go the free agency route, I'd like to see Rodon and then trade for a left fielder and a closer. We saw the rumors about Liam Hendriks. I think an even better option would be Bednar out of the Pittsburgh Pirates. There's no rumors about him, but if you're trading Brian Reynolds, Bednar doesn't have, he has very similar value right now on the trade market anyway. If you check out baseballtradevalues.com, they are valued very similarly, and I don't think it's going to cost you premium assets to get him. I do think it'll cost you a couple of good pieces, but it's not going to cost you a Josh Young or a Jack Leiter or something like that to get Bednar. After all, we're talking about a closer with only 2 great years under his belt, and we'll see which route they go. But I, as a Rangers fan, I would like to see them sign Carlos Rodon to, say, like a 6-year, we'll call it a $140 million contract with an option for the 7th year, something like that. If they're willing to go that far for DeGrom, 5 years with an option, I imagine they'd be comfortable at that similar type of contract anyway for Rodon. But if I'm the Rangers, that's the move I make. But there's still some other teams really trying to push for him. We mentioned the Twins, the Giants, the Mets, the Yanks. Let us know in the comment section where you think Carlos Rodon is going to go. But we'll see. His market is going to be the most interesting, I think, over the next 12 to 15 hours. I think he ultimately signs before Aaron Judge. I think he's probably the next big domino to go. But make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll keep you guys updated when he does sign. We will let you guys know in a short 15-second video and then immediately go live thereafter. You guys can join us then, comment, let us know what you think of the signing, etc. Really appreciate you guys joining us. As I mentioned, I will be up till probably about 1 a.m. Central Time. And so that's probably another hour and a half. I will be up for you guys, let you guys know if anything happens, because the winter meetings are on the West Coast anyway. That probably be around 11 o'clock. Usually when rumors start to die down for the evening and people start heading back to their suites for the evening. But Make sure you keep your notifications on if we do go live again tonight. Again, I will put out a short little 15-second video if something crazy happens, and then we'll go live. But appreciate you guys joining us this evening. What the heck happened with Montas this year? Well, I mean, for Montas, he had a good start with the A's. Had rumors all year. Goes to New York, and sometimes things just don't work out in New York. They made the interesting decision of adding Montas and subtracting Montgomery, who had a significantly better second half with the Cardinals since they trusted him with his stuff. Pitching coach, by the way, at that time with the St. Louis Cardinals last year was Mike Maddox, who's with the Texas Rangers. Yes, so glad we got him as a Rangers fan. But I just think very highly of Mike Maddox. But Yankees, I told you guys at the beginning of last season they had to address their starting staff. They chose to not address it. They chose to go into the season short on starting pitching. They had a great first couple of months, and then had a starter ERA rotation, or the starter's ERA after the month of May anyway was over 4.5, and that includes Garrett Cole's numbers in that. That is not sustainable for winning. That's part of the reason why they fell short in the postseason, that they just ran out of starting pitching. Nestor Cortez got hurt in the playoffs. Their bullpen had a lot of up and down performances all year long. They sent home Aroldis Chapman, did not perform in the postseason. So the Yankees had to have some work to do in their bullpen as well. Carlos Rodon to the Yanks. That would be a great signing. They do need to address the starting staff. Wow, this is a little bit of news, a little bit surprising anyway, out of a Bay Area report, is that the San Francisco Giants are looking to add 2 outfielders. A little bit surprising there. Of course, they're looking to platoon Jock Peterson. Maybe that's the second outfielder they're looking at in addition to Judge, but that's kind of the latest news right there. Zaidi still feeling very confident about their process and the way they're negotiating with Aaron Judge. We saw the article earlier about Bob Nightingale saying that the Giants have a growing suspicion or a growing sense of confidence about their position with Aaron Judge, and why wouldn't they, especially if he's coming to San Diego tomorrow? What the heck happened to the Montas this year? We talked about that. Texas and the Mets going on the same way. I think they're going to be in on the same free agents at least for the next day or two until Rodon and Senga sign. I think the Mets and Rangers are still going to be competing for very similar free agents. After that, I think they go completely different directions as to what they're going to look for this offseason. DH might be the only other time they might be in contention for a free agent. But the Rangers could use a DH, a left fielder, a closer, and a starter. The Mets are looking for center field if they lose Nimmo. They're looking for 2 more starters. They're looking for third base, a designated hitter, and some bullpen help. The Mets have a lot more holes to fill. They have a lot of money to be able to fill those holes. We'll see if they're able to get the job done. Really appreciate you guys joining us this evening. Just going to check one more time to see if they have any other news out there. Padres did make a higher offer than the Phillies, it does sound like, according to Matt Gelb of The Athletic. Does not state how much higher that offer was. Yanks are meeting right now with Nimmo. As I mentioned, we'll stay up for you guys if anything does happen on the free agent market. Say that the Yankees try to get something going in their direction. Maybe they feel that the ball is turning, against them, and want to strike early and get a guy like Brandon Nimmo as insurance in case Judge leaves, or in case Judge comes back. They need to make improvements on that team. Nimmo would be part of that improvement. So maybe the Yanks try to strike, but I think it's still early in the Nimmo sweepstakes for him to sign. It would certainly be a surprise for him to sign at the meetings, in my opinion. But let me just check Twitter just one more time just to see if anything else is breaking for you guys. Doesn't look like anything else is happening besides those notifications. So if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, we'll about to log off here for the we might be live again later on this evening if something does break. But make sure you follow us here, subscribe to us here on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at UpsideSN. Stay up to date on all the latest from the Major League Baseball's hot stove and the winter meetings. We also cover the NBA, NFL, and the NHL. If Odell Beckham Jr. signs with the team. We'll make sure to break that for you guys as quickly as we can. Of course, the 49ers have a lot of questions right now about their quarterback spot. If they make a signing for a quarterback, we will let you know that as well. And of course, in the NHL, Jason Robertson is absolutely going off as an 18-game point streak. I didn't see if he scored today in their game, but wow, a lot of things going on in sports right now. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll keep you guys up to date. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. And hit that like button if you haven't. Appreciate you guys joining us. And thank you guys once again for subscribing. I really do appreciate it. And we'll see you guys maybe later on tonight, but certainly tomorrow when we get more updates from the market. But really appreciate you guys. But we'll see you guys a little bit later on in the evening, hopefully, if anything does break. But we'll see you soon.